What if there was a multitude of physical domains in which natural ecosystems share a symbiotic relationship with the dynamic complexity of human history? This seemingly incoherent string of words that I have just described is one definition for the term region. This raises the question, though, what really is a region? We all live within a region, whether we are attending our college or residing in our hometowns. It remains incredibly difficult to establish a general consensus on the proper interpretation of this term. Approaching such an intricate concept requires breaking down the idea into manageable parts and examining the numerous semiospheres present in any given region. The region we will be observing is the Susquehanna River and its tributaries, as well as the surrounding territory which constitutes the regional watershed. This 444-mile stretch of river flows from Lake Otsego and spans southward through all of Pennsylvania and into the Chesapeake Bay, making it one of the most important waterways in our nation's history. We will focus on three specific areas along the river, beginning in Cooperstown, New York, the headwaters of the Susquehanna.
Cooperstown, New York is a place with a vast history of cultural and ecological change. This land was once pristine, as described in the romanticized writings of the novel The Deerslayer. This was a land that held
the air of deep repose, the solitudes that spoke of scenes and forests untouched by human hands, the reign of nature.
Cooperstown is famously illustrated in the literary works of both James and Susan Fenimore Cooper, who explore social interactions among Native Americans and settlers of the area, as well as the way in which the fauna and foliage became an essential tool for both groups of people. Susan Fenimore Cooper's book, Rural Hours, reiterates this idea of domestic economy, their eco-critical writings about the local environment. The tradition of ecological sentimentalism lives on through the Farmers Museum, the Fenimore Art Museum, and the town's love for Glimmergrass Lake. However, the dense forests of Cooperstown did not survive in all places along the river. Williamsport, Pennsylvania was the stage of the largest logging industry in history, using the river as a means of transportation. This pattern of exploitation has not diminished. Williamsport now harbors fracking and natural gas operations, which pollutes the waterway and erodes the soil. However, the current relationship between humans and the environment is directly opposite what it once was, when settlers and native peoples were nurturers of the land. The villages of Austin-Wacken near Williamsport and also Old Shamokin further down the river were places in which native peoples and Moravian Christians lived in cooperation. The easily navigated river allowed these two groups to exchange goods, resources, and ideologies. A key figure that united the two cultures was Madame Montour, a native woman who represented the harmony between land and those of the land. This harmony has diminished greatly over the years, but a sense of community is still very prevalent in the now industrialized locale. This poses the idea of a paradox that exists in the coal towns along the Susquehanna River. The citizens remain incredibly attached to their homes, despite the land having little to offer in such a desolate state. The mining industry that supported these communities for decades has deteriorated, much like the well-being of the surrounding landscape, leaving the inhabitants without fame or fortune. Bucknell professor Ben Marsh remarks on how establishing a profound connection to place requires appreciating fully the tangible and intangible rewards that are offered from the particular environment. But as over 3/4 of the coal region's population dispersed to other places and homes, it became evident that many citizens only loved the tangible rewards of the region in the form of economic wealth. However, the remaining community continues to be resilient despite a history of adversity. Domestic prevalence is necessary to enact a culture that promotes the longevity of environment and culture.
Roger Scruton would describe sustainability as rooted in ecophilia, or the love of home. And through this admiration, we learn to circumscribe our demands and to recognize that the good things we inherit are not ours to spoil, but ours to use wisely and to pass on. To establish a love of home, though, parameters including physical, environmental, and human geography of a region must be defined. Accomplishing this will allow oneself to experience a region firsthand, which Seneca philosopher John Mohawk describes as the only way to truly understand a place or a phenomenon. Appropriate contextualization can lead to the developing of a true love of home, as is often the case with those inhabiting the Susquehanna River Valley. The history of this region expresses an uncharacteristically strong connection between the region's natural capital and the consumers of these resources, from the earliest of inhabitants to contemporary citizens.